I'm going to mist across the top of my board, a little bit down the sides here, with a fine misting bottle. That's one of these fine misters. And then I'm going to take my 3/4 flat, and I've mixed 1:1 neutral gray and raw umber. Oops, I don't know where that chunk came from. And I'm going to shade around the outer edge. I want it nice and wide at the corners, and I'll just sloppy shade through there. Nice and dark, and bring it around at the corners, down the sides. Whoops. Okay. Same thing over on this side. And it's starting to do its bleed that I want. And I'll just take and lightly mist back over top again so that my float will bleed out. I'm just going to finish coming down the side of the board. And again, mist lightly over top of that. And you can use a natural sponge just to soften and blur out your bleed. And we will be strengthening this up in a few places later on. So I'll now go and I will dry this. I'm going to strengthen up on my corners and on my edges here and there, just coming with a little bit of just raw umber. So I just want to come in, shade a bit, and then fade out. So it'll kind of be like a little bump of shading here and there. I don't want it to, so what I'm saying is I start with the brush on an angle, shade so it's wider, and then off tiny. I'll do it again over here. So I start with the brush coming in, flatten it out. My shadow gets a bit wide. I'm going to use and this is to do our wood graining on our fence posts and our gate. So I'm going to use my little mini fan. And you hear that scratchy, that's a stiff bristled brush. And that's my mix that I basted in. Now I'm going to pick up neutral gray, and I'm going to scratch neutral gray through the wet base color, just uneven so that it gives that wood grainy line, wood grainy look, I guess we'll call it. Put a little neutral on the top, just using the corner of the brush, because the top of our post is flatter. And we will shade to give our post dimension afterwards. So just put a little bit more of the neutral. I'm going to give my brush a wipe, and now I'm going into cobblestone. And I'll put a little cobblestone up on the top as well. And I'll shape that a little more. There we go. Getting the top shape to our post. That's not too bad. And I will repeat and do the same thing on the other side. So we've used the fan, and I chiseled the other post, wet coating it. And then for the gate posts, I chiseled it, but I did not wet coat. I started with neutral gray and then went to sand gray. Okay, so now I'm picking up neutral gray and a little sand gray, both on my liner. And I'm just going to run it down and highlight the metal bars. And a little here and there, just a swipe. It's more of a swipe on the wrought iron pieces. So it's just same color. I've got the neutral gray. I picked up neutral gray on my brush and some sand gray. So whatever unloads, I didn't brush mix and stir them. I just picked them both up. And then I'm going to come over to the next one. Same thing, picking up neutral, picking up sand. And then I'll just down my... I'm not intending on covering the entire piece of wire, right? They're the raw, like the post. I just want to get a little highlight on them. Again, on the little curves. However much they get, that's the highlight. The sun's hitting it. Now, I'm going to come back with a little bit more. I'm just dipping into, I'm not cleaning the brush, a little more of the sand gray highlights and highlight my posts. Oh, I forgot that wrought iron up there. So I'll go neutral gray, sand gray, pick them both up, and I'm going to come in here and swipe my little bit of highlight. See if that bit more sand gray, and just add that bit more highlight. Just a little kiss. We're not looking for a lot. I've got highlight on those little latches. So it's just a tiny highlight here and there. I think a little nice, strong highlight down there. Even more on the bottom. I think I might come over and add a bit more on the post as well. There, that looks good to me. I'm going to I took neutral gray and I ran it down with my liner along the outer edge and just highlight here and there on this post. Now I went back with sand gray. I'm going to do neutral in the back one and pick up both neutral and sand and just come along the middle like we did on the posts, just highlighting them, not completely covering all of them, just a little highlight along the edges. Now I'm going to come back here because this has died down as it dries. And I'm going to give a little highlight on the edges. Anywhere that I see might take a little more highlight. You might already have enough on there, and it may not have died down on you. That's not too bad. And now I'm going to take out actually the black-brown mix. I'm just going to move that over in front of the camera a bit more. And as I look for my black-brown mix, now using my number 8 shader or 1/4, I'm going to shade on the gate next to the pieces so it's just going to give a little bit of a shadow there. Gonna shade down the side of the post, down the main post, I'm going to come out here, come down the back side of the post. While that's drying, I'm going to need a bit more moisture. Down the side of that. Let's get a little more of that tint on there. I think I'm going to come down this side here. Again, on each one of these, we'll shade. So it's right next to the post. Flip your brush. And then I'll softly shade. It's dry enough to come down that side of my post. And then I'm going to shade here. So you see how this is creating, I'm just coming down the middle of the post. This is creating the side to the post. So the same thing over here. We would shade down this side of our post. Most of this is going to end up covered in our foliage, creeping out onto it. However, we still like to shade because you don't know what part's going to poke through, and it should look like it's got that shadow cast on it. Nice and soft. I'm not pressing. Press on the palette, not on the piece. And I'll let that dry, and then again I'll come down this side of that. I think I'll just walk these out a bit more to give a... And sometimes you may find, oh, I think I'd like to go back and scratch a little bit more highlight in. It depends what you're seeing and what you've got on there. Kind of slid off the edge there, so I'll just give that a little smudge. I'm gonna have to let those dry, but we can shade along the bottom of each of our posts. Again, they're going to be pretty much covered. And I'll shade along the top so that the top of my post gets a highlight. So I'll reload. I should let this dry a little bit more, but there we go. So our gate is I'm going to thin down my black brown and just come and apply a nice fine line next to the little rungs. Okay, so that's going to give us the look that's got some dimension. Same thing on this side. Keep it tiny. Whoa, Wendy, as I say. Keep it nice and tiny. All right. We're going to start by picking up, actually I'm going to put out a bit of my thicket as well. I'm using a 1/4 Deerfoot. I'm going to pick up Plantation Pine on the whole brush, and then a little bit of Avocado on the toe. And I'm just going to gently start in here, basically by the foot of our fence post and the trellis. Again, I'll reload, pick up a little bit more, and just have a little. We're not having too much on the right-hand side. We will be coming in with more on the left. We end up with a little creeping out here and there. And I'm just going to kind of randomly pop here and there. I'm not pressing hard. We're just using a little bit of this stippled in foliage. I'm not going to add too much because we're going to come in with our round afterwards. So I'm just setting in a background. Then I've got a little more avocado on the brush, and I'm going to pick up celery. Now I pounce on the palette to splay open my brush, and then I come back in on my piece. So you see how it'll leave my brush airy and give me a little bit of a nice highlight. And we just tap it through. So I'm still seeing what we put in the background. That's important. And I'm still seeing, as I come a little bit over my trellis, that I still see a little of my trellis through. I'm going to pick up some of our, and it's just dirty brush picking up all the time, a bit of my thicket. I just want to have a little of that tone in here. And I'll put a little of that over on this side as well. We're not going for too much. I just want to see a little of that color carried through the whole picture. A little of that tone, pardon me. And I'm still, now I'm going back into a bit of celery. Dirty brush. And the celery is highlighting where we put that thicket as well. So we're going to now switch to our liner. A nice long script liner, little short guy. And I'm going to pick up some plantation pine and avocado. I dip into both. Like we did before with our grass, we're going to come in and we're going to pull in grass. And I'll come from lower even in where I've done my bleed out. And then avocado and pick up celery. So we've got both of those on there. and come back in through this same area. And we're adding a little bit of highlight. Back and forth. Plantation avocado, if I need a bit higher poking through. And if I want some little short tufts. So that's not too bad. I'm happy with that. And then we're going to take our 0 round. And with my 0 round, I'm going to come up in here and just start. Do you see how I'll just do little dabs? This is going to create a little bit of depth. So our background, what we did with the stippling, I don't know if my arm's in your way here. So I'll just have these loose, little flick. The odd ones will come down, and they're not even going to have, see how they don't necessarily touch? They're not going to have stems attaching everything. We just want to see a little of our distance, and it just begins to add depth. And this is plantation pine, and I'll do it in little areas. And we can come back with a little bit of avocado throughout them. Not very much, just a tiny bit. And then even a little bit of celery. I'm not looking for a lot. So you'll see how the odd little touch of celery is going to come in, and it's going to lift a highlight, and it's going to bring a little bit of a highlight throughout. So I'm going back in now. Once I've gone throughout, I've on my dirty brush still, I'm picking up celery, and I'll add a few highlight dabs. So you see how these leaves are lifting things up. So it's just giving us another dimension. Come right through here, and we'll dab in our highlights. I am going to add a little bit of flour. So as we go through here, and if I get more highlight color than I want, I'm not concerned, because we are bringing in more light that's going to balance everything out. All right. So you'll go through, I'll come right down into this side over here as well. I'm going to start again with my 0 round. So I want them more concentrated, so there will be more in group areas down near the bottom. So that is my Cherry Merlot. Dirty brush, pick up Baby Blush. And I'll work back and forth between Cherry Merlot and Baby Blush. So you see I'm just dabbing on top of each other. And of course, we're not cleaning the brush, so it's going to be dirty brush. But we never want to put these in that they look planned. So it's just a little dabbed here, a little dabbed there. A little of the Baby Blush. We won't use, pardon me, a bit little of the blush pink. We will use very little Baby Blush. Baby Blush almost will end up looking white on this as we're going. And some places, like you see what I just did there, we'll kind of have it trail. So you're back and forth. You can choose, and you can really look, sort of sit back a bit every now and then and have a look and say, okay, no, I think I could use a little more light or a little more dark, and we're going to put in just a little bit of a look of maybe daisies at the bottom. We're not looking for too much on this picture. I don't want to go to town, and we just want the simplicity of the picture, like the beautiful gate, the simple background. That's what we're looking for. And that's what's gonna give our piece that nice and soft, romantic look that we like. Well, I like. I'm sure you do too. So we'll tap in here. I think that's not too bad. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to come in and I'm going to add my little daisies using my number 2 round. If you'd like them to be daintier, you can use your liner. Now some people will prefer to transfer the pattern on, and that's all fine. And I'll dab in a little center in these as well. So we'll put our little daisies in, and I'm going to touch in a little bit of ground cover, maybe a little looking forget-me-nots or something like that. I think I love a little bit of blue or purple into something, and this picture just looks like it's looking for blue. So it's not too bad. I might come in here with one more. And then I'll bring in my little bits of colors for my forget-me-nots. Maybe a little bit of gingham blue. And let's go winter blue. Gingham and winter. Gingham is that new blue. It's so pretty. So I'll just double dip my brush. And I'll just come through. And you see, we're just going to dab the impression that there are these little forget-me-nots just laying all around the ground down here. And I might dab a little bit of yellow throughout them as well. Get a little bit of centers. We need that for our daisies anyway. And you can always come back with a little bit more of our grasses throughout. Put a few more pieces. Plantation pine would be the choice to stick up in front of them so they don't all just look so planned. There should be something in front of them. All right, that looks good.